Man, oh man, Canadian Conservatives are not very happy with me right now, which is funny because, pegged to be the freedom loving portion of the political spectrum here, the simple fact that I'm speaking out and saying, I want to vote my values, I want to vote my morals, I'm getting attacked and people are trying to rope me into this hive mind. The same thing leftists do. They try to shame you into thinking and doing what they want you to do. And this vote splitting talk is doing the same thing. So anyways, I think it's all bullshit. I respect people's views, while at the same time, guys, give it up. This does not look good on us. There's a lot wrong with politics in Canada right now, and I'm going to tell you, it's not what you think it is. What's wrong with politics in Canada right now is not the politicians, not even a little bit. The problem with politics in Canada is the electorate. It's this weak-minded, pussyfooting electorate who's been goaded into the belief that we need to run our society and our political system off of virtue, not what's actually good for the country and good for Canadians. Now, when I say the word virtue, I mean virtue in the most leftist sense, okay? What they view to be virtuous, but in fact is not virtuous in any way, shape, or form. It destroys society, it destroys the fabric of society. That's what's fueling our political system right now. Not what's good for Canada, not what's good for Canadians. And we've got all political parties operating purely on virtue. Destructive, mindless, ridiculous virtue. So what has this focus on virtue gotten us? Nothing. It's gotten us the degradation of society. It's gotten us a political system with zero consequence whatsoever. And here we are all infighting right now because people want to vote against this virtue-based political system right now. The most destructive thing we can do is continue to support this operation of politics on virtue, on this warped version of virtue. It's the most destructive thing we can do. And it's not a problem with just the left. What's the right doing? The Conservatives are coming back and fighting virtue with virtue. And in doing so, eroding all of the conservative values, leaving a huge amount of their base in the dust, and they think they're winning. And I don't know what gives them this sense. It's just how society operates right now. That's what it is. Society itself is fueled by virtue. We need to take that back too. I actually want the Conservatives to get in, but I want them to get in under good platforms, under good values. I don't want them to get in under virtue. I want the best for the Conservative Party. I want them to transform. I want them to shift away from virtue and towards what's actually good for Canada, what's good for Canadians. And the more we support them with our votes, the more we hand our votes over to these guys and say, like we've done every single election, we'll fix them once we get them in power, we're fueling this slide into leftism that we're seeing in society. We're fueling it. 10 years from now, I guarantee you, the Conservative Party of Canada, if you were to put them on a spectrum, is going to be exactly where the Liberals are right now, as far as ideology goes, as far as what their beliefs, what their values, as far as how they operate goes. That's what's going to happen. That's what has happened. Because we have a weak electorate who not only does not apply consequence to the political system, we have a weak electorate that incentivizes this slide to the left by the Conservatives by gifting them our votes, even though they behave like shit, even though they're virtue-based, even though they're not doing what's actually good for Canada and only doing what's going to get them power. We keep incentivizing that. So not only do we have a system void of consequence, we're incentivizing this slide into leftism that we're seeing happen right before our very eyes. And it needs to stop, guys. So my question is, at what point does it stop? Right? When does it actually stop? When do you think it stops? Does it stop next election? Does it stop election after that? When does it stop? Do we give them grace because, well, now they've got to come in for 4 years and they've got to fix all this shit, so we're going to leave them alone. In the meantime, we're still not incentivizing or applying consequence to get the right behaviors. We wait the next election, it's like, oh, we got to keep Liberals out at all costs. Keep them out, keep them out. Who cares? Just give them your vote. If you don't vote for Conservatives in the next election, you're vote splitting again. Really, think about it. We've been doing this for decades now. It's been like a ping pong ball game, back and forth, Liberal to Conservative forever. and it's only shifted to the left, the whole thing. It's only become more virtue-based, and it's only become not just a little destructive to Canada, exceptionally destructive to Canada. Now, everybody who thinks the Conservatives got it and they're going to stand up for your rights and freedoms, tell me one thing. How many of them did since March 13th, 2020? How many Conservatives stepped up and actually stood for your rights and freedoms in Canada? How many Conservatives actually spoke up against lockdowns and isolations? How many Conservatives spoke up against mandatory vaccinations, things like that, outside of election? Because now it's good for Aaron O'Toole to do that, because it might get him some more votes. How many Conservatives did it? What happened to virtually every single one of those Conservatives? They were removed from their party. Virtually every single one of those guys was kicked from their party. Why? Because they stood for Canadians. They stood for Canadian values. They stood for our rights and freedoms. So what does that tell you about the Conservative Party? The Conservatives are taking us on this path in the exact same direction as the leftists are. It's actually more dangerous because they're doing it slower. They're creeping into it. The left is trying to slam us there, which is actually not a bad thing, because that's when people wake up and realize what's happening and actually react to it. The Conservatives, they're coming, they're sliding in, they're quietly moving us in that direction, right? They're contorting things we say and things we do. They're shifting their own behaviors gradually, slowly, in not so shocking ways, and they're getting us there, just in a more slow fashion, which is bad, because that eliminates the reactiveness of Canadians. That eliminates our opportunity to wake up and say, what the fuck is going on here? We have no opportunity to do that when it's slow, at least when it's fast, at least when it's with a government who's forcing it down our throats. People wake up and react to it, and nobody's doing that with the Conservatives right now. So again, my stance is Conservatives, Liberals, same thing. Same things, guys. Conservatives are almost more dangerous because they're sneaking us there. Quietly, carefully, silently. Vote how you want. If your morals and your values say, I'm going to vote for the Conservatives just to keep the Liberals out of power, all the power to you. Do it. I support that. That's a logic-based decision. Your values are such that you want the Liberals out of power so badly that you will vote the Conservatives even though they're shit. Okay? I'm fine with that. I'm not going to fight you on that. But please, stop attacking me. Stop trying to take this hive mind mentality towards me and shame me into not splitting the vote. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not splitting the vote, guys. Voters do not split the vote. Politicians split the vote. Politicians create policies that leave their voters in the dark, that leave their voters in the dust, and in turn split the vote. So if you want to accuse anybody of splitting the vote, it's the Conservative Party of Canada.